Everybody knows that the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody knows that the good guys lost. Everybody knows the fight was fierce. The poor stay poor, the rich get rich. That's how it goes. Yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows that the boat is leaking. Everybody knows that the captain lied. Everybody got that broken feeling, like their father or their dog just died. Everybody talking to their pockets. Everybody want a box of chocolates and a long stem rose. Yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows that you love me, baby. Everybody knows that you really do. Everybody knows that you've been faithful, give or take a night or two. Everybody knows you've been discreet, but there were so many people you just had to meet without your clothes. Yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. That's how it goes. Yeah, everybody knows. And everybody knows. Everybody knows. That's how it goes. Everybody knows. And everybody knows that it's now or never. Everybody knows that it's me or you. Everybody knows you live forever when you've gone and done a line or two. Everybody knows the deal is rotten. Old Black Joe still picking cotton for your ribbons and bows. Yeah, everybody knows. And everybody knows that the plague is coming. Everybody knows that it's moving fast. Everybody knows that the naked man and woman are just a shining artifact of the past. Everybody knows the scene is dead, but there's gonna be a meter on your bed that will disclose what everybody knows. Everybody knows that you're in trouble. Everybody knows what you've been through. From the bloody cross on top of Calvary to the beach of Malibu. Everybody knows it's coming apart. Take one last look at this sacred heart before it blows. Yeah, everybody knows.
Well, good evening and welcome to another Restore Live. Restore Live going out to Restore UK on Facebook, also to the British Unionist People's Voice on Facebook and to the Restore UK YouTube channel. Now, I'm going to hold for a bit before that we get on with what it is that we're here to do. But suffice to say that this has to be the biggest broadcast that we've ever done in the history of Restore. Now, there was a lot of people that we talked to with reference what it is that we're about to unfold. And also a lot of research was put into making this program. Now, it's going to be a two-part series in where that we hope to chart the course of what has been happening here in Northern Ireland since the days of when Peter Brooke in 1990 under John Major's government, when he would have said that Britain has no selfish, strategic or economic interest in Northern Ireland. And I personally would be on record of having said that that was the time, that was the time frame in where that we as British Unionists in Northern Ireland have been left to our own devices. Effectively, people, we have been, we started the process of what some people believe is an ultimate handover of Northern Ireland to the so-called Irish Republic, to this so-called New Ireland. But you know something, all is not lost. And we have specific people in our targets. You should have specific people in your targets, because the course of history can be changed and it will be changed if good people in Northern Ireland stand together, stick together in order to act upon what it is that we actually know, in order to act upon what it is that others from within the security forces that are being shafted are actually telling us. They feel as bad as we do right now. And as you will see, as we unfold tonight's event, and we go on to series 2 next Wednesday evening of what we're here to do, well, as you will see for yourself, that all is not as it would seem, all is not as it would appear. And in fact, sometimes the ball that we're watching isn't actually the ball that is being played. And this you will actually find out. So what we're going to do is that we're going to hold back in starting what it is that we want to start with. Now, just to say that God works in mysterious ways, some people would say. And whenever that we began planning this series, well, we were about to start to talk about our own British Unionist politicians and how that it is that not only is there single jobs, not only is there double jobs, but there's triple jobs, there's quadruple jobs. There are jobs in their abundance for those that are willing to take part in the selling out of their fellow countrymen. And that, again, is something that you're going to learn. So, as I say, that some would say that God works in mysterious ways. And just at the weekend, we had a godsend that landed on our doorstep. And what we wanted to do is that we want to actually unfold what it is that has landed on our doorstep as a result of some in Irish America, some that are cheerleaders of Irish America. Well, as a result of those people trying to paint a picture that isn't actually the picture that we see in front of us, well, because of their boasting, well, we have gleaned a lot from what it is that they are trying to dress up in a way that it actually didn't happen. So again, what I want to do is that I want to ask people, the numbers are huge this evening, and I have to say that's a huge testament to the subject that we're here to discuss this evening, and also through the various mechanisms that we used in order to attract people's attention just over the past few days. And I thank the people who would have helped us in social media land to drip feed what it is that we're about to do. And we've no doubt that we would have members of the security services on here, not just from here, but from England, also from America, also from the Irish Republic. The numbers are huge this evening right across the platform. So all I'm saying to you people is to strap in and to learn to, in a lot of cases, keep your mouth shut. Because if you try to present something in a way that it didn't happen, well, some people are let's just say we are on the ball in a way that what we would do is that we would pore over every word, we will do the research, and we will unfold the story and put the jigsaw together in the way that the jigsaw actually should be placed. So again, I'm asking people to share this platform, to tag people into the live chat, to ensure that there's as many people here as is humanly possible. Now, if you're here for the first time, what I want to ask you to do is that I want to ask you to give us a like, to give us a love, to give us a share, to tag people into the live chat, and also to share this across the groups, across the pages, into your own channels, in order that people get to hear the truth. Now, every word that is going to come from Restore this evening, we have evidence to back up actually what we say. And what we do have is that we have video evidence from those that would be manipulating Northern Ireland, and manipulating Northern Ireland in a way that isn't consistent with ensuring that British Unionism, that ensuring that the United Kingdom would last for another 100 years, that would ensure that Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom, well, they're seeking to ensure that Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom would be no more. So again, I'm asking people before that we go at doing what it is that we're here to do. And I'm going to say once again, like I said last week, strap yourselves in, because we're going to take you on a journey that, as in the words of that song, everybody knows, but not a lot of people knows. The journey that did unfold, and we're going to take you on this journey using the words of a lot of people that were involved in the various things that has led British Unionism in Northern Ireland to the point whereby that we are separated from the rest of the United Kingdom, to the point whereby that some of our own political leaders, well, so-called, they think that it is best to go with the flow. It is best to facilitate into place this so-called New Ireland that, when examined, it isn't a New Ireland. It is globalization in its finest form. And if you look into the Irish Republic right now and you talk to people just like us, which are down there, well, they will tell you that just like us, that when you call yourself an Irish nationalist in the South, that you're not allowed to be an Irish nationalist without being called a racist, a fascist, a bigot, the enemy of the state, and all manner of name, which, when examined, actually isn't the truth. So again, I'm asking people to share this platform, to give us a like, to give us a love, to give us a share. If this is your first time, make sure that you give us that like and that love, because this way, what we will be able to do is we'll be able to get to invite you to our platform, and you'll be able to see the broadcasts as they would go on in the near future. So I think we've got enough numbers, a smile on my face, and what I'm going to do is strap yourselves in, because we are in for a ride. Now remember, this is a two-part series, and although that we're going to start off way back before the 90s, in the late 80s, we're going to be starting off with people's testament to what actually happened as a result of Americans who wanted to purchase into place American interests, Irish American interests, and they done so quite successfully. In fact, we are told, we are reliably informed that in their drive to recruit agents of influence to help them with the Irish American needs and wants within Northern Ireland, in their drive to recruit agents, well, they actually had to turn off the recruitment drive. And why? Because the amount of people that were coming their way, well, they were overwhelmed with people wanting to participate in getting their feet under this American table. So we're going to commence with by reading something. And what we want to do is that I want people to listen very carefully to these words before that we move on. And again, I'm saying that the numbers are very, very high. And I want people to listen very, very carefully to what it is that I'm about to read. And if you miss some of these words, well, you'll be able to come back to our platform at a later stage. And unless that some people with vested interest, unless that they try to actually take this broadcast down, well, you will be able to see our broadcast. Well, and the fact that we will have this broadcast, no matter why they take it down or not, because the broadcasting software that we have, well, what it does is it records it for us and will make it available on platforms in where that some could come along at a later stage and see the broadcast that we've made. So here we go, commencing with actually reading something. Now, this will be very enlightening to you, and this is as a result of people that we've talked to about the events that we're about to unfold here on Restore. So I'll just take I'll wet my whistle before that we go. So we'll have a man here called Bill saying, can you get to the point, please? Bill, Bill Clinton, maybe? Who knows? Anyway, look, if you just let us worry about how that this unfolds, I would advise that what you do is that you maybe keep an eye on things as they go. I don't mean to be cheeky, but just let us do as we need to do, because this is going to take a while. And in fact, sure, if you don't have the time, well, you know what to do, Bill. So here we go. In the late 1980s, a senior RUC special branch officer confronted an MI5 officer in Belfast. The confrontation was over the involvement of what was known as the Barbies in Northern Ireland. He had uncovered the fact that the CIA was running agents within the community, organisation and political arena. This also involved the setting up of funding of groups. The process, as it was uncovered, followed that political and community activists were to receive money from the CIA front company through a slush fund set up to manipulate the political atmosphere in the direction of American interests. Such interests were not to benefit the United Kingdom or the constitutional status of Northern Ireland within the United Kingdom. Those funded were overwhelmingly from the political left, with the view that the traditional society represented by Northern Ireland was backward and therefore needed to be undermined. With their newfound CIA wealth, the agents of influence set out to manipulate the political atmosphere in a way that would benefit only Irish American interests. The story goes that not only were the Barbies successful in their recruitment drive, but recruitment had to be suspended due to the overwhelming response of those that the Barbies approached. This is the story as it would unfold. So here we go, people. The first video, and I'll stop and I'll start this video as we go. Now, these videos that I'm about to unfold, they're a matter of public record as of Saturday just past there. And we didn't know, we had never had this confirmed in the way that it has been confirmed. But here we go. Here we go with what it is that we're here to do. And once again, I would like to ask people if they would like to give us a like, a love, a share, if they would like to tag people into the live chat in order that they can hear for themselves firsthand as to what exactly happened in Northern Ireland, who were the players, and, well, this is how that things unfolded as of the early 1980s.
Been probably about 17, and my mom told me that some people came and they were from Washington. They wanted to speak to Chuck, and they wanted to see if he had any interest in a career. I don't know whether that career was in the Secret Service, whether it was in the CIA, whether it was in some sort of Homeland Security type of thing. But Chuck really never mentioned that to me. And then, sure enough, in the blink of an eye, he'd be gone.
This was a man who many say could blend in, disappear. No wonder the CIA came knocking. Like so much with Chuck, who knows? Half a century after that visit, Chuck's embroiled in the Northern Ireland peace process, albeit without anyone realising.
So Chuck Feeney, a man of Irish-American descent, what it is said there by his own family members that when he was a young man, the CIA, the Secret Services, they came knocking on Chuck's door, and Chuck was away, disappeared with a blink of an eye. And then it was on to a second family member in where that family member said that Chuck was a man that could blend in. And is it any wonder that the CIA came knocking? Sometime later, Chuck was embroiled in the Northern Ireland peace process. And, well, we let the story unfold from here. And what we'll be doing is that we'll be stopping and we'll be starting these videos as they go along.
Meet Martin, who worked with him and knew him.
I met him and, found him kind of not operating in the same way as other people operated. A remarkable kind of intellect, a lot of kind of lateral thinking, sometimes hard to really understand exactly what was on his mind.
Chuck would get us to come and do unusual things for him. So one time he called and I just happened to answer the phone at home, and he said, "Hey Tommy, I'm in New York City. Can you do me a favor and pick me up at the train station tomorrow at 10:30? And I asked Chuck where we were going, and Chuck said, "We're going to go out to Western New Jersey. Have you ever heard of a place called Bedminster?" So I said, "Yeah, I know where it is. I can get there." So we headed out that way, and when we got to the destination in Bedminster, and I pulled in, and the next thing I saw, there were Secret Servicemen there, and they had armed guns on them, and so I dropped Chuck off at the front, and I stayed outside with the Secret Service. An hour later, he came back out, and he said, "Yeah, I just talked to Bill Clinton. He was a pretty interesting guy." And I said, "Well, what did you talk to him about?" And he said, well, at that time, he had mentioned that he was interested in the affairs in Ireland because these people over there are having a lot of suffering is going on, and there's a lot of violence there. So
he often came into my office unexpectedly and in a shabby raincoat, and he'd open his briefcase and he'd have newspaper cuttings, and he'd seem to hand them to me at random, not saying very much. It was made quite clear to me by those who minded him to maintain his secrecy. He never really directly asked me to do anything except once, and it was when the Baltic states, when the Berlin Wall coming down and the Baltic states were attempting to break free from Moscow. And he said to me, "Ed, do you know much about Estonia?" I said, "I know little or nothing about Estonia, Chuck." "Well," he said, "they're a university in the second city, Tartu. Would you think of going there and forming a link with that university? I think I'd like to see the Estonian universities forming links with the West." It was still very much under Moscow's domination.
Now, at this point, what I want to do is that I want to have people understand who that it is that Chuck Feeney is. I remember at the start of this video clip, his family members said that when he was 17, the special services, the CIA came knocking at Chuck's door whenever he was young, And then the second family member had said it's not a bit of wonder that the CIA came and knocking at Chuck's door, because he was the type of man that was able to blend in. Now, the last man that just spoke there was the man that was in charge of Limerick University in Ireland. And he said that Chuck would have turned up on his doorstep with newspaper clippings. And the only thing that he ever asked Chuck, he ever asked the man in charge of the university in Limerick to do, was he said that he would like Limerick University to tie in with a university in the Baltic states in Estonia. And, we'll hear this man as he goes on with reference what that it was that he was asked to do by this man, Chuck Feeney. Now, we play this in order that people can understand exactly who Chuck Feeney was, who Chuck Feeney had become, who Chuck Feeney was in terms of the Northern Ireland peace process. And, we will listen to several videos as we go along, just understanding who Chuck Feeney is. Now, suffice to say, I'm going to read from what it says here right in front of you, is that Chuck Feeney was a man that donated $780,000 to Sinn Féin in order that Friends of Sinn Féin could have an office in Washington, D.C. And when he was asked, and we learn this in some of these videos, when he was asked for what was estimated to be a total of $1 million to fund the Friends of Sinn Féin in Washington, well, we will hear Chuck Feeney in his Irish-American way, using consistent with his Irish-American roots, that he had absolutely no problem in handing over $780,000 to Sinn Féin in order that they could have an office in Washington, D.C. So let's play on and let's try to understand as we go who that it is that Chuck Feeney is. Now, I'm going to say that this is hugely significant that we learn who Chuck Feeney was, what Chuck Feeney and his operatives were doing in Northern Ireland since the late 80s. And we will hear this from their own words, from the people that took part in this. We will hear this using their own words in how that they were engaged in a process to manipulate the political atmosphere in the way in which Irish America wanted. And they did that with great success here in Northern Ireland.
I was met there by the communist leadership from Tartu, who had a rickety old Volkswagen van, which we drove through the night from Leningrad to Tartu. And I found myself in the hands of the Communist Party there and signed an agreement with the rector. But it turned out that Chuck had been helping behind the scenes to assist the people in the Baltic states who were attempting to break free from the grip of Moscow.
Whether it was in the CIA.
Again, what I want to impress upon you is that the professor from the University of Limerick, who had been sent at the request of Chuck to the Baltic states, to Estonia, what he learned when he got there, when he found himself with the Communist Party in that area of Estonia, he found that Chuck had already been working behind the scenes, preparing the way for this man to forge links with university in Dublin. So again, what I'm going to do is that you got to excuse me here. I hit a wrong button there, but what we're going to do is we're going to play on here. And if I have to skip a bit forward, well, we will skip forward, but we want to learn in a conclusive way about who Chuck Feeney is, just in order that no one can try to suggest that Chuck Feeney was anything else other than a Barbie, CIA operative, working here to ensure that Irish American interests were pushed into place in Northern Ireland, detrimental to the continuation of Northern Ireland as part of the United Kingdom.
In Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, attended that centre in Dublin that Chuck set up. So in his absolutely strategic way, he made things happen, identified potential leadership, supported it and trusted it.
So in his unique way, Chuck was a man, as from his family's admissions, that the CIA came knocking, that the special services, they came knocking, that in another family's members' recollection, that it wasn't any wonder that the CIA came knocking looking for Chuck, because he was a man that could blend in. And then we hear the man in charge of Limerick University saying that in his strategic way, what he could do was he could identify people, leaders, and then he could forge a trust with those leaders. This is me paraphrasing, and he could use those people, and this is my paraphrasing, as agents of influence. And in the case of Northern Ireland, as you will find as we go on, what they were doing was that they were manipulating into place Irish American interests in a way that was detrimental to the continuation of Northern Ireland as part of the United Kingdom. Now, I can say this with my hand in my heart, having done the research, having listened thoroughly to who that it is, what it is, who that it is that Chuck is, who that it was that Chuck worked for, and whenever we listen to the various people that worked with Chuck, that were willing to align with Chuck, well, we can put together the pieces in the jigsaw, which will make a completely consistent message, which is consistent with where that it is that Northern Ireland has ended up today in 2021. How many times have you heard the American administration suggest, with reference, say, for example, Brexit, that if there is a border placed between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, well, that will be going back to the back of the queue, said Barack Obama, in terms of a trade deal. Nancy Pelosi, you know, who remembers Nancy Pelosi trotting around this country just a few years ago, spouting off Irish American interest, completely inconsistent with the absolute need to cater for two communities here in Northern Ireland. Let's understand thoroughly who that it is that these Americans are and which interests that they are, and I'm going to use this terminology, which interests that they have been purchasing into place as a result of their liaisons with what's known as agents of influence throughout Northern Ireland. Let's go on to video number 2, because we want to be able to get through this. This is series 1 of a 2-part series. And in the second series, well, we will be talking about the people here in Northern Ireland who would have worked along with this Irish American influence and this Irish American interest, and when they were attempting to put in place the circumstances whereby that the romantic dream of a united Ireland could be achieved, could be realised. And whilst our so-called political leaders, whilst they would turn a blind eye in order to ensure that they would be okay in the new dispensation of this so-called New Ireland. Video number 2. Let's move on.
In Northern Ireland, people and projects were being vetted, even if they didn't know it. Sometimes posing as tourists, Chuck's people were visiting all sorts of establishments, like a library where Ophelia Byrne worked.
That's quite, it's quite a funny thing to think that, you know, you, unknown to yourself, you're bringing somebody around the place that you work, and they are there thinking, will I or won't I? Do I think that they fit with what we want? And I had no idea.
Chuck seemed to have a finger in many, many pies. Liam.
So, posing as tourists in the late 80s, before that phraseology from Peter Brook under John Major's government, before that phraseology, which suggested that Britain had no selfish, strategic or economic interest in Northern Ireland. Now, it is widely believed that that phraseology was encouraged by Americans working in the background. And now we're getting to see, as a result of the very fact that they couldn't keep their mouths shut and they done a podcast at the weekend, well, as a result of those people not being able to keep their mouths shut, we're now being able to piece together exactly what happened in Northern Ireland. We often suspected, you would often have heard me saying that there were CIA interests in community groups, in peace and democracy groups in Northern Ireland. There was CIA influence. Now, whilst that we would have said that, whilst that we would have heard people who would have told us that, well, we could have never have proved it until Saturday, until these people trying to promote themselves, well, they opened their mouths in a way that was, well, let's just say that, well, their mouths were too big. And here we have it from the horse's mouth, what it was that these people were doing here in Northern Ireland from the late 80s. Now, they said that they were posing as tourists, trying to identify agents of influence. This is me paraphrasing, from within the Northern Ireland society. Let's understand if they identified agents of influence. I'll just bring this back just a small bit, and then we'll go from here.
Liam Maskey was a community worker from a Republican family.
There was an office in Belfast city centre we were asked to go down to, and Billy Reagan and the best shirt and tie on us and scrubbed up and so forth, and go down not knowing what to expect. And we were waiting on the lift. And this wee guy comes over. So we get out of the lift, and we weren't sure whether it was the third or fourth floor we had to go to. We went on up. We went the wrong floor and got back down again. Waited for 2 or 3 minutes. And then invited in their room, and he was sitting in the main chair in the room. He was the guy that we were there to meet.
He made quite an impact on a woman who would later ask questions about, and indeed be asked to analyse, what had been going on. The author and journalist Susan McKay.
Now, before we go on, you may have noticed there that a guy called Liam Maskey, yeah, that's the family member which is associated with Alex Maskey, the Speaker of the Assembly in Northern Ireland. And, you know, Liam Maskey, he won the American President's Prize for peace building in Northern Ireland. And what we can scratch the surface and find out is that Liam Maskey was the only person to win the American President's Prize for peace building in Northern Ireland. And one often wonders, and this is me, and I am entitled to ask this question, but was this his reward for services rendered? Was this his reward for facilitating Irish America whenever they came to Northern Ireland to infiltrate the politics, the community groupings within Northern Ireland in order to influence the political climate in a way that Irish America could actually have themselves and their way here in Northern Ireland? So let's play on and let's hear what Suzanne McKay had to say. Now, there's a reason why that we've included Suzanne McKay or Susan McKay in all of this. And you may have seen, if you've been watching from the start, that at the very start, whenever we played that the dice is loaded and the good guys are losing, well, you know, there was a young man who was on a puppet string. And it turns out that that young man was interviewed by Suzanne McKay in the not too distant past. And whenever I approached this young man, and I said to this young man, well why are you being, talked to? Why are you being interviewed by this lady? Well, this young man told me that, that anything that he does, and I have this in writing, anything that he does has to be A-okayed by some in the LCC. And I have this in writing, people. I have this in writing. So let's understand as we go what it was that Susan McKay was doing within this entire equation.
He wore a cheap watch and carried his belongings in plastic supermarket bags and travelled economy class. And he does seem to have presented quite an eccentric appearance.
I had no idea that he was as wealthy or as influential as he was.
Neil O'Dowd was summoned to a meeting with a man he'd never met before in New York.
So what I decided to do was put together a magazine called Irish America in 1985. It was aimed at the influential Irish Americans in the American community, and we hit it off on a very significant level.
The meeting was to prove to be significant for the future of Northern Ireland. But who was Chuck? Who was he working for? Or who was working for him? And how did he come to have so much power and wealth?
So who was Chuck? Who was he working for? Who was working for him? How was it that he come to have so much power and wealth? Well, if you listen to the start and the testimony from a member of the security services here in Northern Ireland, whenever he confronted MI5 and whenever he had questioned their permitting of what he called the Barbies to be infiltrating politics and community groupings here in Northern Ireland, if you had listened to that man, well, you would soon understand exactly who that it was that Chuck Feeney was. But don't take my word for it. Don't take our word for it. We showed you. Go back to the start of this video. Listen to his family members when they said that the Secret Services in America came knocking when Chuck was 17, that the CIA came knocking, that another family member said it's not any wonder that the CIA wanted to utilize the capabilities of Chuck because he was the type of man that could actually blend in, and that comes from his own family members. So who was Chuck? Who was Chuck working for? In fact, who was working for Chuck? Now you're going to hear this, you're going to learn this as this story unfolds. And remember, people, this is part one of a two-part series. The second part of the series would be laying out bare people that we believe that may have facilitated these Barbies to manipulate Irish American interests into place since the late 80s here in Northern Ireland.
You know, his great phrase was, anonymous is synonymous with success.
I would just like to read from this statement that we found in the press whenever we were researching exactly who that it was that Chuck Feeney is. An Irish-American dual citizen, Feeney was instrumental in leading the Republican movement down the peaceful path, and from 1995 provided friends of Sinn Féin with $780,000 to fund the setting up of the party's office in Washington. Now, if what we hear, of what we see in front of us is to be believed, well, if we place who that it is that Chuck's family member says that he was, who that it was came knocking to Chuck's door whenever he was 17, Well, what we are actually seeing in front of our very eyes is the CIA investment into Sinn Féin in order to provide friends of Sinn Féin with an office in Washington. Now, ask yourself a question, a serious question. For what reason would Sinn Féin want or need an office in Washington? For what reason would Irish America want Sinn Féin to be funded to have an office in the heart of America? For what reason is the real question.
Because you can go quietly and secretly into a place, do your work, and not have a song and a dance about it. But the difficulty was that people were suggesting that he was getting his money from peculiar sources.
Well, journalists were always talking about this mysterious organisation, Tara, and it did have quite a sort of shady reputation.
Now, again, I'm going to stop, as we will be doing through the various videos that we have here this evening. I'm stopping because top US donors to Sinn Féin, 5th of March 2015, one of the world's most generous philanthropists, Chuck Feeney, was one of the top donors to Sinn Féin. Irish American. Chuck Feeney was an Irish American billionaire, according to what it was that was said with reference Chuck. But of course, you will have learned, if you watch this stream from the start, that the CIA had a slush fund that was to influence the course of history in Northern Ireland and Northern Ireland politics, the course of the future politics in Northern Ireland. So let's play on and let's understand, because here, if you think that you've seen something to date, you have not seen anything yet, and that you could be assured of. So again, I'm asking to tag people into the live chat, to ask people to come, to share this platform, to give us a like, to give us a love, to give us a share. And this is only the start. This is only scratching the surface of what it is that is to come. And I'm going to say something before that I move on. If you have been duped by Chuck Feeney, if you have been duped by this Irish American influence, if you have been duped by this CIA slush fund and the money that flowed from this slush fund, if you are a British Unionist, if you are a loyalist, if you are a community grouping, a community worker, and if you receive money from this source, well, now is the time to say that we got it wrong, that we were duped, that we were swindled into thinking that these people were impartial, and they wouldn't do things in a way that would only place their interests as paramount. Let's remind people that in the area of 1995, 1996, I can remember a time whenever Bill Clinton was telling people here in Northern Ireland that they needed to place the bitterness and the hatred of the past behind them. They needed to reach out to the opposite community. They needed to embrace people like Jerry Kelly, people like Jerry Adams, people in the Republican movement, and they needed to make amends for the things that had happened in the past. Blessed be the peacemakers is exactly what Bill Clinton said whilst he stood on a platform at Belfast City Hall in late November of 1995. He said, "Blessed be the peacemakers." Well, I can tell you, people, that on that very day, whilst Bill Clinton was in Mackey's factory delivering a speech, Clinton's advisors were being told in Clonard Monastery that the IRA ceasefire was over. In February of 1996, the IRA, they placed a bomb in Canary Wharf, what was known as the Docklands bomb, which caused £500 million worth of damage. That bomb was the time when I believed, when people that I were talking to believed, that everyone should have understood that the IRA peace process, that the IRA ceasefire was a sham. From that day on, the so-called peace process, it became an appeasement process, which was set to deliver appeasement after appeasement after appeasement for IRA terrorism, at to the complete detriment of British Unionists here in Northern Ireland. And that's a fact. And if anyone wants to challenge me on what it is that I say, well, you're very welcome to visit on Restore, and we can have this debate. And maybe you could tell us why you think that I would be wrong, but of course that you know that I'm not. The Belfast Agreement, it was a disguise. It was built for appeasement, swindle, and lies. The peace, it was a farce. The IRA guns are, to this day, still there, and London is afraid of another bomb scare. And now that we know that Irish America, what it was that they had on their shopping list was being purchased into place by the Barbies, by the CIA, and you'll see it on your screen as we unfold it, who it was that the players actually were, and how that it was that they manipulated many from within our own community to take the coin, to take the shackles. Those that took the shackles, those that have taken the shackles, what is it they say? They are bound by the very same shackles. We'll play on.
You know, people were unsure as to where this money was coming from.
What we know so far is that this apparently normal elderly man, now 90 years of age, in the past had a front row seat with world leaders and was involved in countless clandestine encounters in darkened corridors in Ireland, north and south. Importantly, he had inordinate amounts of money at his disposal. But where did it come from? Was it shady, as some began to suspect?
Chuck.
So this man had inordinate amounts of money at his disposal, and was it shady, as some began to expect? We'll play on.
Had started getting involved with an organization that he set up with a fella named John Healy called the Irish American Partnership. And for a time period, Chuck would be completely focused on anything Ireland, anything Irish. And he was part of a group of, I think there were 50 wealthy Irish American descendants. And I think that collectively they got together and they decided to make massive investments in places in Ireland.
So, as you'll have heard, and we're not finished yet. In fact, we're scratching the top of the hour, and I would advise people to strap in, because this journey isn't over by any stretch of the imagination. We have some more videos in where that you're going to hear about the shenanigans that was going on in Northern Ireland. You're going to be witnessing firsthand in how that the Barbies, how that the CIA were manipulating Irish American interests into Northern Ireland. Now, at this point, people, what I want to do, because the numbers are huge this evening across the platforms, what I want to do is that I want to place something on our screen here. And, you know, it has taken a very long time to do this research. It has taken probably upwards of days and nights, probably some 4 days to date. You know, personally, I've got to work. The people in the background, you know, they've got to work too. And what we're asking people here, if you like what we're doing, if you support our work, we're going to ask you to support us, to support us to do what it is that our politicians are not doing. Do what it is that what our political leaders, our community leaders are not doing. We want you to, if you believe in what it is that we're doing, if you think that we will be relentless, that we will not uncover the stones that need to uncover, if you think that we won't do that, well, I'm saying to you, don't click on that PayPal link. Don't put a few pound into our coffers. Don't fund us to spend the time, to spend the effort uncovering these types of things. But if you do believe in our work, if you think that we will be relentless in standing up for your interests, standing up for the interests of the people of Northern Ireland, if you think that we will do that, click on that link and make a small donation towards our work. Because what we would like to do is that we would like to do this full time. We would like to scratch the surfaces that need to be scratched. We would like to uncover and to expose the people from within our own community that need to be exposed. If you support our work, click on that link and help us to help you save Northern Ireland and to change the course of history as it has been purchased into place by Irish American influence. Help us help you by clicking on that link. Now, what I'm going to do, people, is that I'm going to remove the link. I'm going to ask people yet again to give us a love, give us a like, to give us a share. If you're new to the channel, do give us that like in order that we can invite you to our channel in the very near future. And again, I ask you to brace yourself as we unfold exactly how things have unfolded here in Northern Ireland. And we can do this because these big mouths, that's what they are, promoting themselves, telling people how wonderful they were whenever they put into place this wonderful failed peace process, which in effect was an appeasement process, and we'll get to that very soon. But these people, in their own arrogance, in their own self-promotion, well, what they've done is they have given us things exactly as they have unfolded. I'm going to take the link down. We're going to push on. If you can help our work, please do. Please click on that link and fund what it is that we do here on your behalf at Restore UK. Moving on, people, moving on. You haven't seen anything yet.
Going to Irish shores was making the situation much worse. Ed Walsh.
I knew he was appalled at the atrocities that were taking place in the name of Ireland by the terrorists. And he would have been concerned about some of the funds that were being raised by NORAID, which were going to buy guns, quite likely. And he would have been disturbed by that and would have seen the result of US funds being given perhaps by people who are well-intended people, but they're resulting in the purchase of weapons of destruction.
There were some signals coming to us from Ireland that political change was about to happen. It was a time that John Hume was getting together with Gerry Adams, and so what we had decided to do was put together a group of people who would go over to Northern Ireland. This is the early 1990s, and Chuck particularly was very interested in the idea of, working towards peace from an American angle. So
people, what I want to do there is I want to just reverse this back a slight piece. I was watching from the background, and I want to go back to, let me just see. I'll start.
Was put together a group of people.
Or this is where I wanted. This is where I wanted to be.
So
I want to actually read from that caption. In November 1990, Northern Ireland Secretary of State Peter Brooke had stated that Britain had no selfish strategic or economic interest in remaining in Northern Ireland. Brooke approved the establishment of a private line of communication with the Republican leadership. Now, what we do know, and I've spoke about this in times gone past, in where that Brooke was operating under the guidance of John Major's government, and that was the magic words that was to present the circumstances in where that the Republican movement could come in from the cold, that they would participate in a so-called peace process, which we now know to be an appeasement process. And I've said in the past, and we're now actually seeing this in the cold light of day, that this was being influenced by Irish America. This is exactly what was happening. This is exactly how that it unfolded. And now you're seeing this firsthand for yourself because these people, well, they couldn't keep their gobs shut, and they decided to put it on a podcast, which was absolute gold to us.
What we had decided to do was put together a group of people who would go over to Northern Ireland. This is the early 1990s, and Chuck particularly was very interested in the idea of, working towards peace from an American angle. So I had a number of people with me, like Chuck, like Bill Flynn, like Bruce Morrison, who had a very deep sense of involvement in Ireland in one way or another, and who felt, is there anything we could do in terms of working with people to increase the chances of peace? We had gone to the White House and said, look, we think we can work with the different parties over there. We think we can help bring about an American dimension that would be very helpful. So we talked about this theory of outside the box, where people were locked into positions and couldn't move from those positions. And then you bring in somebody from the outside, and the people have to change their relationships. We were the instigators of it at the start. We were dealing with Sinn Féin throughout that period very intensively.
First, they met Irish Prime Minister Albert Reynolds before they drove to Stormont Castle to meet the Northern Ireland Secretary Sir Patrick Mayhew. And then they met all of the political parties of Northern Ireland, but from Reverend Ian Paisley, they were met with suspicion. Susan McKay.
Well, I suppose the suspicion among unionists would have been that, a lot of money coming in from the United States was probably something to do with Irish republicanism. And of course, the fact that Chuck did give some funding to support Sinn Féin in America subsequently would have added to those suspicions.
Employing a clandestine network of undercover operatives working worldwide. Atlantic Senior Vice President of Programs was Martin O'Brien.
So employing a clandestine number of operatives working worldwide, this is Chuck Feeney. This is what he was in charge of. Now here is one of his operatives here in Northern Ireland, or may have been in Ireland, which is about to tell you about Chuck's affairs here in Northern Ireland.
And at the height of it, I guess there were across the world, there were about 130 people.
People were asked not to reveal where the money had come from.
In Northern Ireland, Ken Logue was one of those undercover operatives, working for the Irish branch of Atlantic called Tara Consultants.
We were trying to be incognito, and we approached organisations that we thought were working in the right direction, working according to how we felt things might develop. So people didn't approach us, we approached them.
Atlantic was willing to take calculated risks on people and organisations that they believed could make a positive difference in Northern Ireland, such as Northern Ireland Alternatives, which worked with former combatants to help end kneecappings and punishment attacks, with the offenders acknowledging responsibility and compensating their victims with the agreement and cooperation of paramilitaries. But this was one step too far for the then British government. Co-director Debbie Waters.
So can you imagine that an embargo came from Westminster through the Northern Ireland office to a small community group on the Shankill that had 3 staff?
The government at the time, the Northern Ireland office, described their work as novel and contentious.
So that is video number 3 of 4 little videos cut from a huge amount of audio footage. Now, again, what we want to do here is that we want to move on. I realize that it's we've been here for 60 minutes to get to this stage. In this last part of what it is that we're here to unfold this evening, what we're going to see is that we're going to see and hear some people from within our own community who may have been duped, D-U-P-E-D, duped, who may have been, they may have thought that they were dealing with people that were impartial, when in fact it was totally an Irish American influence, which were pushing into place the needs, the wants, and the desires of Irish America into Northern Ireland. So without hanging around, let's actually just go and let's put this last video up. Now, I'm going to ask people to pay particular attention to this last video as we go. Here we go. The numbers are still remaining very high. And, well, here we go.
What we did was, with Atlantic on our side, we took on government. A small community-based organisation took on the government, and in essence, we won. So if you want a model of activism that works and truly works, it's us, and it is all because Atlantic stood by our side.
I want to just stop there for a moment. You got to excuse me. Right. So this is Debbie Waters, who has links with the Northern Ireland Alternatives on the Shankill Road. And, you know, whenever we hear what Debbie Waters just had to say there, and we understand that Debbie Waters is she co-chair of the policing board, is exactly what Debbie Waters. Now, doing some research into Debbie, we do see, and we do have clipped here in a way that she had some experiences from America before that she took up this activism. She had some experience in America, and she was using the experience in America for whatever reasons here in Northern Ireland. Now, again, I'm suggesting here that some of these people may have been totally duped. Some of these people may have thought that this Irish American influence was actually on their side. Some of these people may have thought that the bags of money that was coming was there to facilitate and to help them, and in a totally impartial way. But what we have to do is that we have to understand who that it is that Chuck Feeney was, who that it is that Chuck Feeney's family said that he was, who that it is that approached Chuck Feeney in his early days, who that it was that Chuck Feeney, according to his family, aligned with the Secret Services, the CIA. And another family member saying, is it any wonder? It isn't any wonder that Chuck Feeney was approached by the CIA. So again, I want to put this up, and I want to read from what Debbie Waters effectively said there, that her activism was made possible by her associations with Atlantic Philanthropies, which was Chuck Feeney's organization. And as you'll have seen, as you'll have heard, you will have heard these people being too big with their gobs, that well, we can hear that Chuck Feeney's money, according to some, that was involved was believed to be coming from sources that were not as they were being described. So let's play on and let's understand what was happening. And again, I'm saying that there are people from within our own community who may have been duped with reference where this money was coming from and what the intentions of this purchasing power actually was. But yet Debbie here, she was involved in activism, and against who? Against the British government, with the back and call and with the backup of Atlantic Philanthropies. So we can understand that Debbie thinks that Atlantic Philanthropies was helping her against the British government. But then we wonder, is Debbie a British Unionist? Does she know that the Irish American interest wasn't here to ensure that British Unionism would continue, to ensure that Northern Ireland would continue as part of the United Kingdom? No, they were here to ensure that the romantic dream of a united Ireland was furnished to those that called themselves freedom fighters, those that murdered and maimed many of our loved ones throughout the years. So Debbie could be forgiven if maybe Debbie got it wrong, if Debbie was duped. But I would like to hear from Debbie and others as to, did they understand who the Chuck Feeney was? Did they understand where the bags of money was coming from? Did they understand who that it was that was backing them up against the British government? I don't know what has happened there.
Community worker and former Republican internee Liam Maskey was...
Let me go back a bit, because I just don't know what was happening there.
Right.
Now I know. So on a furtherance from Debbie Waters, you see, I'm going to read from what it is that's in front of your screen with reference to the Northern Ireland Alternatives for Justice. Of course, the real game playing out was as a means to permit Republicans like Harry Maguire, the murderer of the two corporals, who remembers the two corporals who were, they were hemmed in their car as they stumbled upon an IRA funeral. They were taken from their cars. They were taken to Casement Park. They were stripped. They were shot in the head. And Harry Maguire was actually convicted for murdering these two corporals. But of course, the real game playing out was as a means to permit Republicans like Harry Maguire, murderer, IRA man and director of Restorative Justice Ireland. Well, it was as a means to ensure that those Republicans could get a license to police nationalist, Catholic and Republican communities. Effectively, people putting the terrorists in charge of the police force in their own areas. Maybe Debbie Waters didn't know that whenever she was involved in activism against the British government, with the back and call and with the support of Atlantic Philanthropies, which was being run by, well, according to Chuck's family, being run by the Barbies, pushing into place Irish American influences. So watch on.
Community worker and former Republican internee Liam Maskey was another person who came under Atlantic's radar when he tried to build links between communities that were sworn enemies.
And before we move on with Liam Maskey, of the family member of Alex Maskey, member of Sinn Féin, Liam was an internee And Liam was involved in, well, was certainly arrested for several things, pre him becoming involved in this type of work. Now, Liam Maskey would have said that he met a man called Billy Mitchell from within the Loyalist community. And now, not the Billy Mitchell that a lot of people would know who's alive today, but a man who was involved with the PUP back in the day. And Liam would have said that he went in the early 90s with his personal protection weapon whenever he first went to meet Billy Mitchell. And I wonder how that it was that a man that was suspected of doing things that was in turn, how that the likes of Liam Maskey, that would have authorized Liam Maskey to have a personal protection weapon that he could take down the back of his trousers to meet Billy Mitchell. So Liam Maskey then went on to form a thing called Intercom, which was short for Intercommunity. And, he then went on, and he is a senior advisor for the Centre for Democracy and Peace Building. So let's just play on and understand who that Liam Maskey is and what was his links and what did he receive as a result of his links for his associations with Chuck Feeney and with what is now understood to be his links with the CIA, pushing into place Irish-American influences here in Northern Ireland.
So obviously North Belfast was being a very divided and an area that was hurting bad in the conflict. I don't have to give you a history about around 92, 93, how things were going and the murders were rising, and for years, for a long time, I'd been just sort of feeling, just trying to find ways to try and get communities working together, just to even if we could reduce conflict at some level. I was running a youth club committee, I was running a boxing club, running a community group. So I'd heard about this guy called Billy Mitchell, who was a former UVF life prisoner who was doing great work in the lower end of North Belfast, and I made a connection through a minister from the Protestant community, and Billy agreed to meet me. I don't know whether it was naive or romantic, but we sort of said, well, why don't we join the two organisations and have the first inter-community baby in North Belfast?
So why don't we join together? Liam Maskey said. Liam Maskey initiated this process and have the first inter-community baby. Intercom Unity was born as a result of what it was that Liam Maskey had been asking for. Now let's remember that Liam Maskey got the American President's Award for quote unquote peace building. He also got the Irish President's Award for peace building. Now, I don't know this at this stage, but was Liam Maskey the only person that got this for services rendered? Let's play on.
Atlantic was able to step in and lend financial support, but it wasn't only money that was being invested in Northern Ireland. Chuck, in an American delegation, including Neil O'Dowd, founder of the Irish Voice newspaper, were working politically behind the scenes with people and organisations from both sides of the divide.
So there was obviously the Hume Adams talks, there was the government talks, all those things were going on, but we were working away back and forth with loyalist groups. We brought them over to America. We brought guys like Gary McMichael, David Irvine, Billy Hutchinson.
People like Billy Hutchinson, who was sceptical in the extreme as a former loyalist prisoner that this was just more Irish-American money going into the old Republican cause.
Irish Americans had to give people like me, unionists, guarantees. It was giving people confidence that they were there and they were not going to go down one side. What they were going to do was to actually work for peace.
However, what Chuck did next threw his impartiality into question.
Yeah, one of the things that Sinn Féin wanted was a guarantee that they could operate freely in America like many other international groups do, have a Washington office. And it needed about $1 million to fund it. So the only person I knew who had enough money to do it was Chuck. And I always remember when I asked him, can you put up $1 million to start a Sinn Féin office in Washington? He didn't blink. He said, sure.
So Chuck, when asked to fund a Sinn Féin office in Washington to the tune of, well, that man says almost $1 million. The fee quoted here is $780,000 to fund the Sinn Féin office in Washington. Well, Chuck had no problem in putting that money into Sinn Féin. And then Chuck doesn't hide anything. The people that are talking do not hide anything in terms of Chuck Feeney's credentials. Chuck Feeney was an Irish American. Chuck Feeney, it will be suggested, I don't know whether I have them in these videos or not, but certainly from the footage that we listened to, Chuck Feeney would have joined with Irish American interests. Chuck Feeney always was, and always will be an Irish American, with this romantic dream of a so-called United Ireland. Let's play on.
Washington. He didn't blink. He said, sure.
A number of years later, the peace process was going to be signed.
Today's historic agreement marks a new beginning for all of us in Northern Ireland, on the island of Ireland, and in these islands.
How does Billy Hutchinson look back on it now?
Irish Americans probably played a bigger role than most people think. There was no doubt about it. We asked for guarantees from Irish America, and we got them. And they supported that. And Chuck was amongst those who were actually involved in that.
I mean, it invested nearly $555 million over the period of its involvement in Northern Ireland.
Author and journalist Susan McKay compiled the official report on what Atlantic Philanthropies achieved in Northern Ireland.
I would say, particularly for me, the investment in buildings and in programs for universities and medical centres were tremendously important. So investment that was made in, developing Queen's University in Belfast, for example, it moved from being 39th in the UK for research intensity in 2001 to being 8th in the UK in 2015.
Did the Barbies, did the CIA, did Chuck Feeney, did he purchase Queen's University? I'll ask that again. Did he purchase Queen's University? Well, there was a huge amount of money put into Queen's University. What is it they say? He who pays the piper gets to call the tune. And we've all witnessed what is happening in Queen's University of late. Did Chuck Feeney purchase Queen's University? Let's play on.
And a lot of that was down to huge investment by Atlantic.
So there we go, people. That is, in a nutshell, what has been happening here in Northern Ireland over the years, from the early 80s going forward. Now, some would say that this has been going on a lot longer than from the early 80s. But what I'm asking for people to do here, because the numbers are still huge, I'm asking people to leave your messages in the live chat, to tell us what it is that they think whenever they have just seen what they've seen. It's unquestionable. This is as a result of a podcast which came out just at the weekend. This podcast that fell into place at a time whenever that we were here to show the corruption here in Northern Ireland that has led British Unionism to this point. In 2022, in January of 2022, in where that we as British Unionists have been separated from the rest of the United Kingdom, in where that there seems to be only one trajectory, in where that there seems to be only one destination, if that we continue to facilitate, if that we continue to elect, to put in place and to support those that are currently elected as British Unionist leaders, who, in my honest opinion, are turning a blind eye, whilst we are being driven towards this so-called new Ireland, which in effect is globalization at its finest. Are our own political leaders, do they have their fingerprints all over this? Have our own political leaders been bought? Are our political leaders not single jobbing? They're not double jobbing. They're not triple jobbing, quadruple jobbing. Are they working for many outside interferences? Are they being made rich in order that outside influences, could have their own way with the people, with the entity known as Northern Ireland? I hope you enjoyed what it is that I brought you this evening. Next week, in part 2 of what it is that we're doing, we're going to be talking more about our own political leaders. We're going to be focusing next week on Jeffrey Donaldson. We're going to be focusing on the DUP. We're going to be focusing on the many hats that Jeffrey Donaldson has attached. We're going to be focusing on testament from people that knows Jeffrey Donaldson, that has known Jeffrey Donaldson, and we're going to be telling you what it is that we've learned over the course of what it is that we've been doing here at Restore UK. So what I would like to once more do, now don't get me wrong, this isn't over yet. This isn't over. What I will do is that I will, before that we close, is that we will be reading out something that we read out at the start. We'll be going on to play a little song. The little song is exactly the same song that we played at the start. That song being "The Dice is Loaded." And I would like for people to watch the video clip that is placed with "The Dice is Loaded." And I would also like for people to leave their messages in the live chat. And once more, if you can help with the work here at Restore, I mean, this took a long time to do, a long time to put together, a long time to plan and prepare for. So if you can help with our work, click on that PayPal link and help our work. We is better than I. And with your support, we will not shirk from our responsibility to stand up for Northern Ireland, to stand up for Northern Ireland's interests, to stand up for Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom, to stand up against those that from within our own community that are pretend British Unionists. We will not shirk from our responsibility to do the right thing for and on behalf of the people here within the United Kingdom who for too long have been spun, swindled, fudged and lied to, in order that those that we call our political leaders, in order that those people, well, they can make themselves rich off the backs that everyone that has spilt their blood, sweat and tears here in Northern Ireland from the late 60s going forward. So what we're going to do is that we're going to play a little song as we play ourselves out. We're going to, before that we play that little song, I almost forgot, we're going to give you a quote from someone that was able to help us with our research, and someone who is absolutely sickened to the core that those that stood up for the community, those that stood up against terrorism, well, those people are being persecuted and prosecuted in their old age, whilst the terrorists, whilst the Irish American influence would ensure that the terrorists, they have immunity from prosecution. They are placed as the police force within their own communities. They are set over and above everyone here in Northern Ireland. Didn't I see a newspaper article today in where that the police service of Northern Ireland, well, they're investigating everybody but the provisional IRA. Ask yourself a question: why those people, the provisional IRA, those that would have carried out most of the murder here in Northern Ireland, why do those people have immunity from prosecution? Why? Why is this the case? So let me read this, then we'll go to playing a song, and we'll go to playing us out with some other things that we have. And I want to thank each and every one for sticking with us. I want to thank each and every one that has given us a like, a love, and a share. I want to thank each and every one that supports our work by way of making donations into your PayPal. People, we is definitely better than I. So let's read this, and then we're going to be playing us out with some things that we have prepared. Excuse me. I'll take a little drink because my throat is a wee bit coarse after an hour and 35 minutes of speaking. So here we go. Listen very carefully, then watch the video clip very carefully as it plays out. In the late 1980s, a senior RUC Special Branch officer confronted an MI5 officer in Belfast. The confrontation was over the involvement of what was known as the Barbies in Northern Ireland. He had uncovered the fact that the CIA was running agents within community organisation and within the political arena. This also involved the setting up and funding of groups. The process, as it was uncovered, followed that political and community activists were to receive money from CIA front company through a slush fund set up to manipulate the political atmosphere in the direction of Irish American interests. Such interests were not to the benefit of the United Kingdom or the constitutional status of Northern Ireland. Those funded were overwhelmingly from the political left, with the view that the traditional society represented by NI was backward and therefore needed to be undermined. With their newfound CIA wealth, the agents of influence set out to manipulate the political atmosphere and in a way that would benefit only Irish American interests. The story goes that not only were the Barbies successful in the recruitment drive, but recruitment had to be suspended due to the overwhelming response of those that the CIA approached. This, as you will have seen, is the story of the Northern Ireland so-called peace process from the late 1980s going forward. In 1985, Margaret Thatcher signed the Anglo-Irish Agreement. This was encouraged by American influence. In late 1990, November 1990, the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, the then Peter Brooke, he uttered the American influenced words that Britain has no selfish, strategic, or economic interest in Northern Ireland. Those words were reiterated again in 1993 by the then Secretary of State, Sir Patrick Mayhew. In the meantime, in the time between Peter Brooke and Patrick Mayhew, the Hume Adams talks were influenced and encouraged by Irish America on the promise that if Hume and Adams were to persuade the IRA to lay down their arms, eventually they could have exactly what they wanted. The rest, my friends, is history. Not a history that was to the benefit of British Unionism here in Northern Ireland. But, things can be changed. All it takes is to change who that it is that has been constantly selling us out over the years, to change our leadership, to change those within our leadership that has been bought and that has been paid for and that not only is single jobbing, that is double jobbing, that is quadruple jobbing, that is, jobbing beyond anyone's comprehension and being made rich off the back of those that have fought and died in order that Northern Ireland would remain part of the United Kingdom. People, all we have to do is to change the way in which that we vote. We have an opportunity in the up and coming elections to put in place a party of the people, a party for the people, a party that is built by ordinary citizens within Northern Ireland, a party which, if I understand this party to be right, a party which will put a spanner in the works of Irish-American influence here in Northern Ireland. Let's make this a reality, and let's make this party, the TUV, let's make the TUV the chosen leaders of British Unionism here in Northern Ireland, and let's encourage the TUV to approach the Northern Ireland electorate on the basis of setting up what I call a people-politician partnership capable of delivering politics in the way that the British Unionist electorate here in Northern Ireland would deserve. People, thanks very much for coming along. Thanks for ensuring that the numbers would stay high this evening. Excuse me. It's been not only an enlightening process, what it is that I've been involved in the past few days, but also it's been, I guess, an emotional process, actually having clarified what it is that many of us have believed down throughout the years. It's good to have things clarified. It's good to understand that the things that we've been talking about over the days, the weeks, and the months, and the years that has gone past, well, we weren't wrong. Today, in January of 2022, the people at Restore UK are vindicated when they said that Irish-American influences, well, they corrupted everything here in Northern Ireland. Isn't it time that we put things right, that we set the record straight, and that we ensured that no British Unionist leader are ever purchased in a way that causes detriment to Northern Ireland, that causes detriment to the rest of the United Kingdom, and that causes detriment to everything that everything that we have ever believed in. All we are asking for is fairness. All we are asking for is a level playing field. All we are asking for is that these parasites that have sucked the lifeblood out of Northern Ireland for many, many years, all we are asking for is that these parasites get off the backs of the ordinary, decent people here within Northern Ireland. If you're a nationalist, if you are a Catholic, if you have a vested interest in ensuring that the people of Northern Ireland, will they get on together, well, you should be our friend. Because believe me, you have more in common with us than you do with the manipulators in the CIA, with the manipulators who have been bought and paid for from within your community, from within our community, from these manipulators who have made themselves rich on the backs of ordinary people's blood that has been spilt down throughout the years in this dirty, seedy little war that was called the Northern Ireland Troubles. Thanks for listening. Thanks for keeping the numbers strong and playing us out with a couple of videos. Excuse me for my throat being croaky. If you can help our work, invest into our PayPal, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Don't forget, 2-part series, part 2 coming next week here only on Restore UK.
Everybody knows that the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody knows that the good guys lost. Everybody knows the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor, the rich get rich. That's how it goes. Yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows that the boat is leaking. Everybody knows that the captain lied. Everybody got that broken feeling, like their father or their dog just died. Everybody talking to their pockets. Everybody want a box of chocolates and a long stem rose. Yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows that you love me, baby. Everybody knows that you really do. Everybody knows that you've been faithful, give or take a night or two. Everybody knows you've been discreet, but there were so many people you just had to meet without your clothes. Yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. That's how it goes. Yeah, everybody knows. And everybody knows. Everybody knows. That's how it goes. Everybody knows. And everybody knows that it's now or never. Everybody knows that it's me or you. Everybody knows you live forever when you've gone and done a line or two. Everybody knows the deal is rotten. Old Black Joe still picking cotton for your ribbons and bows. Yeah, everybody knows. And everybody knows that the plague is coming. Everybody knows that it's moving fast. Everybody knows that the naked man and woman are just a shining artifact of the past. Everybody knows the scene is dead, but there's gonna be a meter on your bed that will disclose what everybody knows. Everybody knows that you're in trouble. Everybody knows what you've been through. From the bloody cross on top of Calvary to the beach of Malibu. Everybody knows it's coming apart. Take one last look at this sacred heart before it blows. Yeah, everybody knows.
I can't help but wonder why so many people, they had to die for being British in our own land, murdered by cowards with their evil hand. The IRA crept back to their bed after leaving so many people dead. A soldier, a cop, a father, a son, a woman, a child, just anyone. But the Unionist people, they did not lie down, fought and defended the red hand and the crown. We stood proud, ready and able. The IRA cried to come to the table. The Belfast Agreement, it was a disguise. It was built for appeasement, swindle and lies. The peace is a farce, the guns are still there, and London's afraid of another bomb scare. Appeasement after appeasement, day after day, provos in government still getting their way. And our two big parties, well, what can I say? They are sitting in Stormont with the IRA. Not listening to the people who put them in place. They ask for support, then they lie to your face. A united Unionist party, some say we need, but there's too much corruption, lies and greed. I can't help but wonder why so many people, they had to die. For being British in our own land, you can never shake a terrorist's hand. Think of our country, the red hand on the crown. Listen to the people, stop letting us down. Our leaders have blown the chance to make things right. The whole of Unionism, I mean the people, we must unite. So we reach out again with offer of partnership. No time for politicians hell-bent on dictatorship. No puppets, no lackeys, our people deserve better. We will not be sucked in with promises in letter. Meaningful and proactive is the only game in town. We long for a day when politicians stop letting us down. You have one more chance at putting things right. But this time we demand that you stick to the fight. A roadmap must be drawn, agreed by everyone. No hierarchy, no pulling rank is exactly what must be done. An army of people must be put together with weapons of words, which will remain and abide forever. United we stand, divided we most definitely fall.